it and it brings you right in.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and get started here. This is the All Sailor Zoom meeting, our first ever All Sailor Zoom meeting. Looking forward to the fall 2020 sailing season here. So just real quickly, SailMaine has 4 full-time employees. Michael McAllister is our executive director. Michael, you can turn your video on if you want. 2 of us are going to be going back and forth. So we got Michael McAllister, the executive director. My name is Bill Marshall. I'm the program director. Jordan Parks is our operations manager, and she runs our adult programming and a lot of our media and helps with fundraising and all kinds of different things. Sam Scribner is the fleet and facilities manager. He takes care of all of our boats, is also one of our high school coaches. And yeah. We've got a great team of high school coaches this fall. I'm really excited. One of the trickiest things for me is usually finding enough high school coaches. It's a tough position to fill. You need to have a very specific skill set and a very specific schedule that allows it. But this year we are really excited to have a lot of returning coaches and a lot of alumni that have come through the program that are around and taking their college classes online and just have the availability to be helping out. So I'm coaching the Cape Elizabeth team again. Really excited to get the Capers back out there. We've got Rusty Morrison, who's returning to coach the Chevers team. He's going to be working with Greta Morissette, who's an alumni who came up through the program. She was a Southern Maine sailor, is a senior at UPenn, and is just going to be taking classes online and available to help out. Greta's also going to be coaching the Greeley team. The Chevers and Greeley teams have the same practice days, and they're going to be working together a lot this fall. We have our largest development team of all time. We have 26 sailors on the dev team, which is pretty wild. So we've actually broken it up into 2 different teams. Liz Briggs is another alumni. She's a Cape Elizabeth sailor who went on to sail in Middlebury, and she just finished business school and is home for a few months before she starts her job this winter. So had the availability to help us out this fall. And Lucy is a recent Portland grad who is taking a gap year and will be coaching the second half of the development team. Really excited to have her with us this fall. She sailed all through high school and has spent some summers working at SailMaine as well. Falmouth has Dick Lebec, our longest standing coach. I believe he started coaching here in 2014. So excited to have him back with us again. Greta, as I said, is with Greeley. We've got Sam Scribner coaching the Portland team again. And Wendy Jordan joined us last year. She did a virtual season with us in the spring, was so excited to get started last spring, did an awesome job with that group last spring, and is really excited to do some on-water coaching. She's also one of 2 captains for our catamaran that SailMaine has now. And Alicia Witham will be back for Yarmouth for the 2nd year. She is another captain of the catamaran. We're really excited to have both of those ladies coaching this year. Bennett Allen will be an assistant coach. He did a lot of work in our adult program over the summer. He's a recent Colby grad. Alec Budensky came up through the Cape Elizabeth program. He is also taking a gap year and will be an assistant coach for the Cape Elizabeth team a couple days a week. We've got Alden Coldrick is a recent high school grad from Kennebunk, who was on the Southern Maine team, and he'll be helping out with Southern Maine and Portland a couple days a week. And then we've got Emmy Ruth, who went to Yarmouth and is a Brown sailor right now, but again is taking a gap year. She'll be going to Taiwan later this year, but has a couple months that she'll be around. So we're excited to have her coaching. She's going to be assistant coaching 5 days a week, helping out Cape Elizabeth on Mondays, and then she's going to be splitting her time between Yarmouth and Southern Maine. So lots of great coaches helping us out this season. Parent coordinators are a very, very important part of the program. So we have some great parents that they volunteer their time, they help organize everything. Coaches have a lot of work to do out on the water. and it's difficult to keep track of quite everything. So we're really grateful for our parent coordinators, Cape Elizabeth. We've got Jennifer Rumble and Karen Francis, Chevris, Katie Erswell, and Eliza Lucier. Falmouth, we've got Jess Cole, Greeley, Michelle Adsad. Portland, we've got Mary Clues and Rebecca Ermuck. Southern Maine, we've got Karen Freem. In Yarmouth with Debbie Bozak and Lisa Allmetter. So if you have any questions about the team or anything that you need, they will be able to help you out with carpools or team events or different things like that. This year it's going to be a little simpler for them. They don't need to coordinate quite as much as they usually do in a typical season, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. And Michael, you want to take us through the overview a little bit?
Yeah, great. Before we go too far, I just wanted to also quickly recognize all the hard work Bill has put into getting this program going. You know, he kind of runs through his name, but he does a lot for this organization, and we wouldn't be able to have this season happen or get people out sailing if it wasn't for everything he's done. And also just ran a huge, great summer program where we got 300 kids out on the water and sailed and implemented tons of new safety procedures. So, you know, we can't do it without Bill. So just wanted to say thanks, Bill. And we really appreciate everything you're doing here for us. So, but quick season overview. I wish we could just get applause right now. It sucks without the mute and no live. But so
different vibe in the high school.
Yeah. Maybe throw some love for Bill in the chat. So the season overview is just really quick. We're starting on Tuesday, September 8th, and we will run until October 30th. Each team practices three days a week, basically practices from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. There could be some fluctuation in that. We're going to try to stagger some people's starts depending on how schools go and things like that. So, but that's just the general gist of the timing. We have event regattas on the weekends. So Saturdays are for more advanced sailors and Sundays are for kind of the development team and beginner sailors. But this isn't just all about racing. This is really about community. It's an after school activity, all different abilities. So we have learn to sail kids. We have people trying to, be competitive racers in college when their program is done here at high school or even go to the Olympics. We'll do J22 adventure sailing too. And we might even throw some opties out there. So this is just a little bit of a diverse program. And yeah, so there's a quick overview.
So the practice schedule, I do my best to kind of guess how big the teams are going to be ahead of time. I was pretty close this year, so I just try to balance out each day of the week so we have about the same number of sailors every day. So as Michael said, we've got 3 days per week. So I've sent this out in an email. This information is available on our website. So hopefully this isn't coming as a surprise to you. But here are the days of the week that all the different teams are going to be practicing this year. My capers have been begging me for years not to have Friday practice, and for the first time since I've been coaching, when I started in 2017, we actually don't have Friday practice this year, so we'll see how that goes.
This one's me, I think, right?
Yeah.
So if you've been to this meeting before, you're used to this slide, and I think Bill has added to the history of this organization on this slide. Those last three are really a lot about him. But SailMaine started high school sailing really back in 2003, and there were no teams. I think there were like 35 kids the first year. Everybody was together. I guess Chevris was kind of the first team on their own. We continued to share coaches. Teams started to build. We had some JV varsity stuff, but that kind of got squished back together. There's been like definitely different models of how this season looks and how it works, and it just kind of changes and develops as our community changes and develops. So 2003, we're probably at 35 kids. I think in the late 2000s, we got closer to 80, 90 kids. And then we started to develop more relationships with athletic departments. So teams were formed with a school affiliation so they can compete in NESA. And then, but you can see that SailMaine retained all the responsibilities for the cost of insurance and hiring coaches. And really the schools just kind of like said you could go out and compete in NESA events. And I think the total number of kids grew to closer to 100 around then. And then 2017, I think, is kind of a benchmark with we added 24 new boats. And in 2019, we hosted high school team race nationals, which was kind of a big moment for us. And then last spring, the season looked really different. You know, we were online, we were sailing virtually. So we've shifted how things look continuously. And really 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, we've had even more kids involved in the program. So it's grown, and we're just trying to, meet the needs of the entire community here. So I know we've got a few questions about regattas, and we'll get to those as we get to the regatta section. So yeah. Anything I missed there, Bill?
No, I don't think so. One thing, just real quick. Since I'm sharing the presentation, I can't see the chat. So if you just want to keep an eye on the chat.
Sure. Yeah, I got the chat up. I guess I'll just read the question and answer it. Are the regattas all over the state for development team? So right now, I'm going to just say that right now there aren't events all over the state, and we're not sending teams. There's no travel this season. Everything is just happening locally at SailMaine. So, Bill, what do you think? Is that how we answer that question?
Sure. Yeah, we'll get into that, like you said. Yeah. And this is just a quick picture of the entire program. This was the entire size of the program. Maybe, what is this? 10 years ago? Do you think? 12 years ago?
Yeah. And I think this was like the Southern Maine team, right? There was only basically the Southern Maine team and Chevrolet. And so all these kids, there's kids from Falmouth here, there's kids from Portland, there's kids from Cumberland. They were all sailing together at the same practice. It was really a community sailing style event program.
And I think it's unlikely that we'll be able to get a group photo this year, just based on how things are. But I wish that we could, and I wish we could get everybody together for a big spread out picture. But
what's the math of like 130 people 6 feet apart each one? 600 and
probably stretch all the way out to peaks.
Yeah. Drone shot. It'll be a drone shot.
So just some things that make SailMaine unique. I feel really grateful that we're in the position we are. I know with so many question marks around the sports season for the fall, and like Michael said, there's not going to be any travel this fall. But we're in a great spot that we just happen to have a venue where we have multiple teams that sail out of the same spot. So, but it takes a lot to make that happen. So we have 36 420s that are available for practice, which is a pretty massive amount of boats. We also have the J22s that are available, the keel boats that we primarily use for adult lessons and rentals, but junior sailors are able to use those from time to time. Combined practices, just the different teams being able to work together out on the water. Just the sense of community in general. It's not just one high school isolated at a yacht club. We're a community sailing center, and I think the high school program really is a great example of that. Weekly regattas. So a lot of venues will host maybe one event per year where they invite people. They'll have one big event or every couple years. And we host events twice a week, every week for the whole season. So we have regattas on Saturdays and Sundays all season long. So lots of regatta opportunities for our sailors. We allow middle schoolers in, so that's really picked up steam over the last couple of years. We have a lot of 7th and 8th graders this year, and we don't cut anybody. So we take sailors of all abilities. So even if you're a junior in high school and you've never sailed before, but you just want to try something different, you're allowed to come out and join the team. or if you're someone who sails competitively spring, summer, and fall, plans to go on and sail in college and beyond, they're sailing side by side. So it's a pretty cool spot. And this is probably the big question on people's minds, just how we're handling COVID-19. So Michael, if you want to talk a little bit about where we're getting our guidance from.
Sure. So in the spring, it was just not possible to run a season given the rapid change of COVID-19. But what that did do for us is it gave us a lot of time to research, build good practices, find out what other people are doing in other parts of the country, so that we could build a really great summer program. And the summer program we ran for 9 weeks. We made a lot of changes to how we kind of just come in and out of the facility, wearing face coverings, staggering starts. So we learned a lot from that on how to run safe programming. So to do that, we relied on guidance from the Maine and the US CDC. We worked with US Sailing, which is the governing body for most sailing in the United States. We were part of working groups with Northeast Sailing Association and US Sailing too. And then we rely on specific guidelines that are created by the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development. And so we're really, this year, we're really under the community sports guidelines and the camp guidelines. So those are the guidelines that we follow. That's how we make decisions about these rules. We also consult with physicians and just from like making sure we're doing the right thing with masks to how long and what we can use for hand sanitizing and hand washing procedures. So we're really trying to get the information that we don't know from someone that knows it, and not relying on what we think is the answer. So but with all that said, we want to acknowledge and kind of recognize that these things change. You can see that the community sports was updated on 9/1, right? So that was 2 days ago. So, Bill was hard at work reviewing those yesterday and today and making updates to what we're going to do. And so we want to just be clear with people that things could change throughout the season, and just please bear with us as we work through this stuff. We hope that the plan we lay out now works perfect, and we don't need to change, but that there could be changes, and they could be anything from the far extreme to going back to virtual practices, to minor things of shortening practice so that more people can be at the space, or practicing. I don't know. There could be I can't even imagine what they could be, but there could be other things. So there could be a range of very simple things, more J22 sailing to open up more boats. There could be lots of different things, but the goal is to provide a community space for kids to have an after-school activity so that they can do the thing they love and be around their community.
Yeah, and we're basically just taking these guidelines and doing the most that we can with them. So we're just maximizing what we're allowed to do. So this summer, for example, the group size in an outdoor setting was 50. So we had to cut some of our programs for our youngest sailors, and we had to stagger starts so we didn't have too many people there at the same time. But we still were able to run a ton of people through the program in a different kind of way. They've recently updated that to up to 100 people in one space, which is why we didn't have to cut any of our high school programming. And now we're maximizing that space. So we're just constantly keeping an eye out for what we're allowed to do safely. And that gets into some of the details of what we're doing. So this summer, if anyone did a summer program with us, you would have gotten a daily health screening, just an email that was sent out automatically in the morning, where you just check off that your sailor didn't have any symptoms. So you can keep an eye out for that this season as well. So we just keep record that you're keeping track of that. Face coverings. So we provide SailMaine buffs for people to use. We like to fold them over once, so you have 2 layers that it's covering your mouth with. but we're totally fine if you want to bring your own mask. I know a lot of people have their own at this point, but we just like to give people the SailMaine buff as well. We have hand sanitizing stations all over SailMaine, right at the gate, at the top of the dock, the bottom of the dock. We'll have them in all the coach boats. So we've got hand sanitizer all over the place. We're going to be doing something a little different this year with a pairing pod. So we'll be making pairings at the beginning of the season. The coach will make a pairing at the beginning of the season. And we'll try to stick to that as much as we can. But a big part of sailing, and high school sailing in particular, is rotating in and out and having different crews sometime and different skippers. So instead of having your entire team that you're rotating through, it'll just be like a group of 3 or 4 sailors that will sail together for the whole season. So we'll at least try to isolate that as much as possible. Boat cleaning procedures, a big step in the right direction for us this summer was getting running water at SailMaine. Feeling pretty good about that. So we've got a hose that comes down to the dock now. We've got plenty of ways to just wipe down the boats at the end of the day. So we'll just be cleaning boats at the end of the day. Team stations on land. So for those of you who have been to SailMaine, we don't have a big building with actual classrooms. And for the first time, that has been a bonus for us because having that extra airflow is actually a safe thing. It's great. So, but we will have designated areas around the site. So the Yarmouth team will go to a specific place and they'll just know to go exactly to that spot. That's where they're going to be. Portland will know that they have to go to this tent. Cape knows that they have to go there. And so that'll be voiced and communicated beforehand, so people get in a routine of where they need to be. No travel, as we've talked about, so we're just going to keep it local, just within Cumberland and York counties. The group size of 100, like I talked about, so we basically max that out with practice every day. And on the weekends, we'll have to keep an eye on that as well for regattas. So teams need to limit the number of sailors that are coming each day. We can't really have a lot of parents or spectators, unfortunately, on our site. But it's actually pretty great viewing just from the Eastern Prom and from the walkway that goes right next to SailMaine. But sailing is kind of a tough spectator sport in general. So we just need to make sure that we don't have too many people at SailMaine.
So Bill, just 2 quick things on that. If you don't, do you mind if I jump in for 1 second?
Sure, yeah.
There is that new food truck and space at the marina that parents can go to.
Yeah.
I know they are very excited to get parents over there. So I think there's even a bar if parents want to go there. That's up to them. And then we are going to be chartering the Rip Van Winkle for some parents to go out on for some regatta. So there'll be an opportunity to get out on that boat if you want to do that, and just keep an eye out. We'll have more information about that going forward.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I forgot about there's actually a little bar right next to SailMaine that you can order lunch or eat there. And it's great viewing of the sailing right there. It's a pretty fun spot to just kind of get away from SailMaine and sit and eat lunch and watch the kids. And the cat, yeah. Michael will talk more about that later, but that's going to be a pretty cool way to get some parents out on the water. Unfortunately, one of the best parts, I think some sailors, their favorite part of sailing in the fall is the barbecue, the potluck lunches that we have that parents do a fantastic job of putting together on Saturdays. I know personally, as a coach, I'm going to be really disappointed to not have my bowl of chili brought out to me out on the coach boat, but we're just going to have to pack lunch this summer or this fall. And then maintaining physical distance as much as possible. So we just need to have some constant reminders about that, but I'm sure we've been living in this world long enough now, in this COVID world long enough now that people kind of get the idea there.
So this is, we have some procedures for if people are exposed or show symptoms. They include potentially a quarantine or requiring a test or a doctor's note explaining the symptoms, or in actually the facility closing down if we need to close or assess any risk. These procedures are based on the CDC guidelines. And really, I think, and Bill, you can go to the next slide if you want, but what I wanted to mention about this is the importance of doing the pods and staying separate from the other teams as much as possible, because we want people there the whole time. And if for any unfortunate reason someone is sick, we don't want, we want to limit the number of people that aren't able to sail anymore. So that's a really important part of it. I know as a sailor and a racer that I just really always enjoyed, sailing with different people. And that's just going to be a little limited this year, and a lot because of safety, and secondly, so that we can just keep as many people sailing as possible. So.
Great. So there's a lot to talk about with COVID and the changes that we've made, but there's also just some general things to talk about with being a participant at SailMaine in general. So the expectations of our sailors, just a few basic things here. Being timely is really important this year more than ever. So arriving on time, being ready to sail. We have pretty short practices, just 3 hours, 3 days a week. So making the most of that time together is super important. And especially if we're going to be staggering starts and people need to be spread out, it's going to be really important to make sure that everyone is where they need to be at the right time, so we can keep things moving. We also understand that high schoolers are super busy and have a lot of different things going on. So it's totally okay if you have other activities that you're doing or other obligations. I know people take the SATs in the fall, people are taking driver's ed, people have different things going on. So just make sure you're communicating that with your coach. As long as you're letting your coach know ahead of time so they have plenty of notice and they're not expecting you to be there, it's really easy to plan around. Respecting all competitors at SailMaine. So racing can get a little heated out on the water, and I think that's okay. We love that competitive fire, but it's also really important to show everybody respect, and when the race is over, go over and just congratulate people, or don't give people a hard time. And that goes for the person you're sailing with, that goes for yourself, that goes for other teams and your teammates. Just we're a stronger community when we work together. So just being mindful of that, and respecting our space as well. So we make the absolute most out of what we have. And we have a pretty small little chunk of the waterfront, gravel, tents, but it's a space that we're proud of, and a space that, as you can see by all the alumni that are coming back to coach here, people think fondly of. So just being respectful of the space that we have is really important too. Once you're out of Regatta, if you're done sailing for the day, we ask that you don't just take off and leave. Like, it's really nice to support your team. So make sure that you're staying for the entire regatta if you're there for a full day. And just be mindful and respectful of the COVID procedures that we have to put in place too. I know it's pretty exhausting going through this day after day. I'm sure everyone can hear us on that, but if we don't stay on top of it this fall, then it could mean that we've got to shut down. So as long as everyone's following the guidelines and taking care of each other and taking care of themselves, then we'll be able to have fun out there.
So Bill, I'm texting you a couple of the chat questions just so you have them.
Oh, okay.
And I think we can get to those as we go forward.
Great.
But just, and these are my slides, right? Or these are my talking points?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we've kind of talked about how the season is going to run and safety procedures and a little history. But now I just want to transition a little bit to some of like how sailing is governed over the country. And it's really governed by two organizations that impact us, ISA and NESA. This is the national wide one, and NESA is the New England one. There are 7 regions that in NESA, or is it 8, or in ISA 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, yeah. And each one of those regions competes, and then they pick how teams get to nationals, Atlantic Coast Championship, things like that. But that has all been canceled for the fall. So this is really has very little impact. It's kind of just like an overview of what those are. And we have run tons of events here where it's a NESA sanctioned event, but the Southern Maine team competes, but they just aren't scored. And so our events will be non-NESA sanctioned events this fall, and everybody will be scored, but it will just be, it only counts for the SailMaine Cup.
And the Sunday series that we've run for the last few years too, same thing. Those are non-NESA sanctioned events, but still super fun regattas. So basically Saturdays will turn into an advanced version of the Sunday series.
Is this me or is this you?
I can talk about regattas. So yeah, getting into regattas, same kind of thing with your schedule. So just give coaches your availability as soon as you can. Again, if something comes up on the weekends and you can't sail, that's okay, as long as we know ahead of time. It's really tough on coaches if they're expecting you to be there, and on your team if they're expecting you to be there on a certain day and you call out at the last second or just don't show up. So just make sure you're giving your coaches your availability so they can plan. We do have a ton of people in the program, and not everybody can sail every weekend, but I think this year we'll be able to have a little more flexibility with that. By not inviting teams from away, we're going to be able to field more teams from our schools. So if there's a really big team, Portland, for example, could have 3 or 4 teams sailing on a weekend instead of just 1 or 2. So hopefully we'll be able to get as many sailors out on the weekends as possible. I talked about limited numbers at the facility earlier, so we just need to be mindful of people that aren't sailing being on site. So if you're at SailMaine, just make sure that you're there for a good reason. Again, I talked about leaving regattas early, so just make sure. Regattas are tricky because they're really weather dependent. It's not like a timed sports game where it's only going to take 90 minutes. So we have a certain call time. You come in at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever we decide that is. And then it's kind of weather dependent. If the weather's great, we get right out there and start sailing. If there's no wind, we have to sit around and wait for the wind. But we will never race after 4 o'clock. So if we're, even if the weather is perfect and we've been sailing all day and people want to keep going, we won't start races until, or we'll stop starting races at 4 o'clock. In the fall, we mostly do fleet racing. Because we were robbed of our team race season last spring, we'll do a little bit of team racing for the more experienced sailors on Saturdays. So we're going to have 1 team race regatta in September and another one in October. The Sunday series is just all fleet racing, and most of the Saturdays will just be fleet racing. All the events will be at SailMaine, and we're just going to be having our own SailMaine Cup. So we'll be more details to come on that, but we'll be keeping track of the results throughout the entire season. So how you do at the beginning of September matters for the end of the year. It's not just one-off regattas anymore. And just keeping in mind the code of conduct and being respectful. There's not a ton of supervision at regattas on the weekends. There's a lot of time where sailors are coming on and off the water. Coaches are out there running the events. Often we'll have parents on site. The host team will be keeping an eye out, but we just again ask that all the sailors that are at SailMaine are being respectful and staying out of trouble. And I'll send this out in an email, and this will be publicized on the website and everything, but here's just a glimpse of our regatta schedule. So we're going to get right into things. We'll be starting on September 12th with our first fleet race. So we're going to be doing 2 fleet races, a team race, 2 fleet races, a team race, and then our championship at the end of October. And then the Sunday series for our development team and beginner sailors will be just every Sunday starting on the 13th in September and October. Oh, I'm sorry, this shouldn't be the 28th here. That's a typo, but just all the way through in October. So I think that's the 18th actually. And then the the Sunday Series Cup for the first time will be on October 25th. We do have to cancel practice sometimes. It's not always safe to be sailing. So we do, and especially now that we have so much practice running virtual practices, I think that's something that we'll be able to really take away from the spring if the weather's not great. But the 20, 30, 40 rule really applies more to the spring. It's if 2 out of these 3 things are in effect, if it's blowing more than 20, if the air temperature is below 30 or the water temperature is below 40, we don't sail. But in the fall, it's really if it's blowing more than 20 or 20, 25, like we usually cancel because of that. It's just the breeze is a little too big for high school sailors to be out there. Or if there's thunder and lightning, that's when we get people off the water. And we're constantly keeping an eye out on the radars and looking out for bad weather. But if it's just raining, we'll go sailing. So it's really important for kids to have the right gear and be sent with spray gear and just be prepared to be out there on the water. September is a beautiful time to be sailing, probably the best month of the year to be sailing in Maine. It does start to get a little cold towards the end of October, but yeah, the next few weeks are going to be fantastic. We send out the word by 1 o'clock. So practice is roughly 3 to 6, but forecasts change all the time. So if you wake up and there's a nasty storm in the morning, doesn't necessarily mean practice is canceled because things could totally clear up by the afternoon. So just keep an eye out, and we'll reach out to coaches, to parent coordinators, and we'll post online. We'll send emails. We'll put it on social media. We'll let you know if practice is canceled. And who to contact. So I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions, or you will have questions throughout the season. So just make sure if you have questions about practices or about regattas or anything about your sailor, you can go straight to the coach. If you have questions about your carpool, like how you're getting back and forth to practice, or team events. Team events are going to be a little trickier this year, but team events or just anything to do with the schools, you can talk to the parent coordinator. And Michael or myself or Jordan in the office can talk about any administrative issues or just general big picture problem questions you have, or anything like that. So Michael, maybe now is a good time to start answering some of these questions.
Sure. So I think there's a question about who gets notified in terms of COVID stuff. And I just want to get this answer right. And I'm going to be completely honest that I got a new computer recently, and I have some of these notes on how we handle this particular procedure on that other computer. I will email that information to everyone so it's clear and we're forthcoming on it. I just don't want to say something that is different than what we've agreed to in terms internally. So I really appreciate that question. It is an important one, and we will follow up with you on that. And Bill, we've got a couple questions about teams starting. If their school gets out at 3:30, how are we handling that?
Sure.
So
yeah. So in the past, Yarmouth, for example, used to have a really difficult time getting from school to practice at 3 o'clock. So they changed their start time to be 3:15, and they would just go a little bit later in the day. Or the Southern Maine team, same thing. They had some people coming from Kennebunk. They had some people coming from Freeport. They just often would start their practices a little late. So if it comes to it that all of these kids on the Portland team, people from Portland High School and Casco Bay sail on the same team. So if they're in school until 3:30, then we'll just have to start practice a little later for that team. And one of the great things about having all these assistant coaches is that if we do have, I've been reaching out and trying to figure out exactly, like things have been changing so quickly that I'm not exactly sure what everybody's school schedule is right now. I know a lot of parents have been a little confused about exactly how it's all going to go. But for example, if Portland High School is out in plenty of time to be there at 3 and Casco Bay can't get there until after 3:30, we can have one coach that starts with the Portland high school kids and another coach that waits for the Casco kids, and we'll figure it out. And we'll make the most of that.
Great. So then there are a couple questions about gear, so maybe we can do a short little bit about gear. And I'm pretty sure we have a list of recommended gear we could perhaps share with the whole list. Is that possible, Bill, or what do you think?
Yeah, sure. I'll just follow up with an email that just has some vendors that you can use. Often there's some high school scholastic discounts that you can get at the beginning of the season. There's some local places where you can get gear. So sailing gear can be pretty expensive, so I think looking for discounts is great. There's also, if you talk to your parent coordinators, there's often kids that come through the program that have some old gear that they're not using anymore that you might be able to get used. But basically, having sailing boots is really important, sailing booties. Having spray pants is really important. Having a spray top is really important, just for those nastier days when it gets a little colder. A lot of people sail with gloves. Not everybody sails with gloves. I don't know, Michael, am I missing anything there?
I think SailMaine does have PFDs, and we are going to, if you need a PFD, we'll give it to you for the season this year instead of you just like dropping it in and out. But if you're going to purchase a piece of gear, you know, PFD is a good long-term piece of gear to get. And I think like a synthetic fabric underlayer is another, you know, a bottom and a top is pretty useful. Stay away from cotton. And I think another bullet point is that we do not require what are those things? Dry suits in the fall. So you don't have to do that. And I don't think there are too many days where many people really utilize a dry suit in the fall. So, but that's it. So another question about what time do regattas start and what's the difference between fleet and team race? So why don't you want to take start time and I'll talk about fleet team race broad strokes quickly and we'll go to the next one.
Yep. Yeah. So this actually just came up in the coaches meeting earlier this week. So typically the call time was 9 o'clock for regattas. It was suggested that maybe we should do a 10 o'clock call time for regattas this year. I think we're honestly going to wait and see. It could be weather dependent. So if we look at the forecast and we know it's going to be flat in the morning, like we'll definitely do that one a little later. One of the benefits of not having any teams from away is we don't have teams that need to travel like from Vermont, for example, and come stay with us, or teams that are coming from Boothbay or MDI that have to drive really far to get here. So I think hopefully we have the flexibility, but somewhere between 9 and 10 in the morning.
And so the difference between fleet and team race, in fleet racing, it's, we have 24 boats basically that would be sailed on a weekend regatta, and all those would be going against each other. So you just, winning the race is the best thing you can do. And it's just, one team from Portland, one team from Falmouth, one team, and they all race against each other. And then fleet racing is when you have 3 boats from one team sail against 3 boats from another team, and the combined low score wins. And so basically, in terms of functioning for a parent, I guess you are still sending your kid to the same practice. It's just like a different skill that they learn at practice. So I think some people like fleet racing more, some people like team racing more. And but they're both fun, and they're both different skills that you learn from each one. So let's see, the next one, we've talked about spray gear. For students who drive, where do they park? Is there ample parking? Parking is one of the most difficult things in the city of Portland. Yeah, parking right there. This is the slide on parking. It just says parking. So if you have if you've never been to SailMaine, there is no. Here it is, another awesome slide, and We are the smaller set of docks to the left, and next to us is a city park, and that city park was renovated this um, summer, even into the last couple weeks, and there are, I think, 8 one-hour parking spots in that lot. If you don't get one of those spots, you can park on the street. There's paid parking around the corner. There's $5 a day parking in the marina next to us. I think a lot of kids that have driven in over the last few years are parking on the Eastern Prom and walking in. It's not about, I've timed it. It's, what did I say? 8 minutes and 43 seconds. Yeah, yeah. And you can walk from basically where that tall building is on the prom down a path and right into SailMaine. So sadly, we have no control over the parking situation. And so you just a factor in when you leave or when we're able to start. So what I missed there on parking, Bill,
I think that's it. I think we've been very fortunate over the last few years, maybe, that we lived in sort of an abandoned part of town, that there was parking available. SailMaine has never actually owned its own parking lot. We actually don't even have an official place to put our own SailMaine truck. So we totally hear everybody on the parking situation, but we just do the best we can. And the city's developing quite a bit right around us right now. Every year has been different. Even this photo is outdated. With the parking lot on the left there is now sort of a park with just a few spots. So we'll see. We're all in that together.
Yeah. So we're getting some more questions in here, and just let everybody know we're going down. We're gonna hit every question. So I think the next one is there a required list? Is there a recommended list or suggested list of gear? We'll get that out. Will you email out coaches/parent rep contact info? Yes. We'll make sure that's available. It's going to be probably on the website too. And
yeah, that's actually a great point. I forgot to mention that earlier. So typically this meeting leads to a group team meeting right afterwards. Like a lot of teams will just hang out in the auditorium and meet with their team and meet with their coach. Unfortunately, that's not possible today. So you can just expect an email from your coach over the weekend before practice starts. So they'll reach out to you, and everybody kind of has their own way of getting in touch with their kids. But I think with COVID and all the online classes, I've found that high schoolers are getting better at using email than ever before. So I think using email is probably going to be the best way. But you'll be hearing from your coach soon.
Let's see. So next question is about helmets. Are helmets required? The short answer is no. U.S. Sailing, our governing kind of organization, has not mandated that they're required. So that's one of the reasons that we don't require it. I know it's a big topic. I'll tell you personally that I started windsurfing a lot lately, and I wear a helmet all the time. And I'm so thankful that I do. And so I personally think that if you feel more comfortable and are concerned about head hits, then please wear a helmet. There are lots of great options out there, but we do not require them. So do the colors of the spray gear matter? I mean, that's a great question. It depends how cool you want to be. I don't think they matter in terms of any safety issue. I know there are some, like some colors show up better on the water, but we do not require any particular color. Right, Bill?
Yeah, that's right.
Here's an awesome question. Are Saturdays and Sundays just for the high school sailors?
Ooh, definitely not. So there, one bonus of not sailing in NESA sanctioned events this fall is that middle schoolers are allowed to sail on Saturdays. We don't like to put this label on it, but an easy way to think about the weekends is that Saturday is the varsity event and Sunday is the JV event. So it's most of the middle schoolers that are sailing on Sunday, but if there is a very talented middle schooler, which there often are very talented middle schoolers out there, you are more than welcome to sail on Saturday this year. And same thing, high schoolers are more than welcome to sail in the Sunday series. Basically, the only rule that we have regarding that is that you can't sail on Saturday and Sunday, just to give everybody an opportunity. So we don't need somebody who just did really well on Saturday to come beat up on everybody on Sunday. And we don't need people that should be like really honing in their skills on Sundays to be out there on Saturdays either. So that's why we have the different levels, just to have an even playing field for everybody and all abilities.
Two quick things on that. I did not even think of it that way. I was like, this parent wants to sail. And the second thing is that just each weekend, or is it kind of like once you've gotten to Saturdays, you really please like kind of stay away from Sundays? Is that like weekend to weekend, or?
I mean, that's a coach's decision,
Yeah.
but I'd say it's the weekend to weekend. So, for example, if Yarmouth is hosting the event, we don't need the best sailor from Yarmouth to sail on Saturday and Sunday just because it's the Yarmouth weekend.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying. Awesome. The next question is, so for middle schooler, they get dropped off at 9 a.m. and picked up at 4 on regatta days. So I think this is the general gist is like, is this just drop them off at 9 and pick them up at 4? How does regatta pick up and drop off go?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And that's sort of what I mean with the there is a lot of freedom there. So we have coaches around, and maybe so last year we had a requirement that we needed at least one parent for every team to keep an eye on everybody, and maybe that's something that we do need to bring back this fall. I just want to be mindful of the number of people that we have on site. So yeah.
So the one kind of, I think, follow up on this, Bill, is so drop kid off at 9, looks like a beautiful day. Wind dies. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to end up sailing. Sailing gets canceled at 1. Then we ask parents to come pick up kids then, or?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Okay. Or a thunderstorm rolls in. So it's kind of like you can leave them there all day, but you got to be available to pick up in case of a weather or other type of cancellation.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And we, I believe we wait until noon. So if there's no wind, we wait until at least noon to see if it's going to fill in. But yeah, that's a good point. With the weather can come in early, and we end up, maybe the breeze comes up too big, and we realize we just can't get any more racing in. We end up finishing at 2:30. So I know this is probably difficult for parents, and you're not excited to hear how flexible you need to be for pickup and drop off for regattas. But again, we're just victims of the weather.
Great. Awesome. So it sounds like a parent from the summer. Will parents pick up, drop off at the Ocean Gateway like we did during the summer?
That is a good question. So we will not have to do that this year. You can drive right up to the gate. So there were a couple reasons we did that this summer. One was the group size of 50 on site, so we wanted to have people as spaced out as possible. Another reason was the parking lot was under construction. So that construction is now finished, and they actually put in specifically a turnaround drop-off zone for SailMaine and Ripple Effect. So yeah, you can drive right down to the gate. And I think, especially since people are going to be coming from school and we want to maximize your time at SailMaine, we don't want to be using that extra time to walk from Ocean Gateway if we don't have to.
Great. This person wanted to make sure we answered the helmet question, which I think we did. Is there a dry space to keep backpacks/phones?
Yes. So we have, we do have a coach's shed, and we do have some space if like it's going to be a total washout. Like there are some safe spaces that we can leave places, but for the most part, you'll just be leaving stuff underneath a tent or just in your area. We have just some pop-up tents, and we do have a couple bigger tents too. So it's not a perfect system, but it's pretty close.
Great. And then there's a question about what are the options for watching from the water for families who have boats, kayaks, etc. So I think if you have a boat or a kayak and you want to go out on the water, like please do it. You know, that's totally fine. You can, if you bring your boat, the East End beach has a ramp to launch from. If you need to tow in and launch, you can put a kayak in. Probably, again, the East End Beach is probably the easiest place to do it. Depending on volume, we may be able to help you do that at SailMaine, but I think planning from there is better. And then, you know, it's really great to watch from the water. Just ask that you stay kind of clear of the race course, so you know, kids can really enjoy the race without, you know, something getting in their way. And if you don't have a boat or you don't have a kayak or you don't want to be on the water, again, like the Eastern Prom Trail is great. Fort Allen Park is such a fun place to watch the sailing from, because you're kind of up on a hill and you can watch puffs come down and watch the racing. And that's a really cool spot to watch from.
Yeah.
So I hope we've answered all the questions in the chat. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If you felt like I missed it, please just like put it back in the chat. And I think we've hit on most of the things. One thing, Bill, that we didn't really talk about is kind of the, and that was my bad. It was on one of my slides to just say, you know, this is a community activity. We are, if your school cancels sports, we are still running an after school activity. It may disconnect the official, like you might not be able to get a letter, you might not be able to get credit for it with the school, but we fall in within the Maine Department of Economic and Community Development guidelines for community sports or camps. So we're going to be following those guidelines and running programs. And if anything comes up on that issue, let us know, and we'll work through it. But we expect to start sailing on Tuesday. Last question here is about, is there a parent coordinator for the development team?
That is a great question. And if there are any volunteers, I would love a parent coordinator for the development team. It's tricky because people often only stay on the dev team for 1 or 2 years. So we need a new person every year. So yeah, if anyone is interested in helping out with that role, please email me.
I think it's Michelle Roy. That is the person.
All right, Michelle.
Wants that job. Yeah. It is really fun in a lot of ways, I think, because you get to help coordinate the team, you get to know everybody. And it's really important to like kind of building a little bit. So she said she works full time and isn't able to do it. So,
all right. If we're unable to find someone to coordinate the dev team, I am happy to be that person. So I can reach out any questions that you have. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Bill. So we're going to kind of move on to the last piece here. Just, you know, SailMaine has a bunch of other programs. We offer our cornerstone outreach program as our City Sailors program that's grant funded, connects at-risk and underserved youth in Portland and the Portland area to sailing. We do adaptive sailing, Special Olympics. We do an adult learn to sail and rentals program. And then many of you are probably involved with our summer learn to sail and race teams. We run programs in Belgrade Lakes and at Centerboard Yacht Club. And we also recently were donated this incredible 40 by 20 foot catamaran called the Rip Van Winkle. We're running outreach programs that help new American families get out on the water. And then we also do some charter programs on that. We've worked with Portland Parks Department or Recreation Department to provide some programming for their summer program. And then we started a Monhegan Island offshore race team this year and had a great experience sailing in that race. And all this stuff is, if you don't know this, is we basically, SailMaine is funded 60% through revenue from programming fees and 40% from public support. So A lot of these programs are a lot less expensive because of generous public support, and sadly, most of our fundraising, official fundraising events were canceled this year. So we're launching our annual appeal in the next couple weeks, and we hope you consider making a gift to the annual appeal. It really helps make sailing available to everybody. And I think you'll hear from your kids that this isn't really necessarily just about the sailing. It's about the community. It's about the opportunity to get out and experience nature in a unique way and make lifelong friends. So there's a little overview on some of the things we do, and keep an eye out for the annual appeal.
Great. All right, Michael. Well, I think that wraps up our first Zoom informational meeting.
Great. Yeah. And I think we answered most of the questions. We've got a couple of follow-up. I'll make sure to get the follow-up on the COVID procedure question out. And then there's some stuff about gear and contact info. But Bill, thanks so much. It was really fun to do this meeting this way.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, thanks everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. All right. Have a great weekend.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Wendy.
Thank you.
That was great, you guys. Nice job.